In the automotive industry, you need to constantly keep up with new products and technology. But the people who need to know about that have completely different requirements. For example, a technician needs to know the latest servicing information and how to diagnose complicated electrical systems, but a sales consultant needs to understand the benefits of the new features so they can explain to customers and have some reference information so they can answer questions. How do you cater to both audiences? By using a consistent e-learning design that's easy to navigate, entertaining, with a variety of formats for the content and a decent amount of repetition. That's because the goal is to keep the students engaged, but the priority is to make sure they can utilize the content the minute they finish the course. It needs to stick in their mind so they can walk straight back to their workstation and start using it. To do this, I use Articulate Rise 360. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the more advanced tool, but that's what we want, simple and quick. In Articulate Rise, I've got templates that are split into these 4 sections: an introduction video, some static content slides, some review interactions, and a final test. Using a template means the format's always the same, so the students get familiar with it and don't have to waste time figuring out where to click next and what to do. The video introduction's really important, whether it's sales or technical training. It's easy for them to just watch, and when they finish they should think, I learned something from that. It'll only achieve that though if the content is presented in a way the student feels they can use immediately, which you can only do if you know exactly what their needs are to begin with. The video should also leave a few gaps in the information so the students think, okay, if it's got this, then what happened to that? That leads them to the next section, the static content. The static content will have the same information as the video, with the same images and illustrations, but with a little bit more explanation. If a student saw something in the video they were interested in, but the video was too quick for them to see it properly, they can review it in the static content at their own pace. I might also include some comparisons or downloadable reference sheets here, if I think the students will find them useful. Most times I'll split the static content into sections, like body, electrical, packaging, and so on. At the end of each static section, I'll add some interactions that will act as a revision. Remember, everything that was in the video is also in the static content, but in more detail. The knowledge check interactions can be multi-choice questions, matching quizzes, drag and drop quizzes, scenarios, and the purpose of them is to give the students some practice using the information they just learned about. Most of the questions are about information from the video, but there'll also be a couple from the static content because we've decided that particular point is important. If the student doesn't know the answer to that question, they can go back and review the static content, but they now know that we want them to remember that. Up until now though, the student hasn't really been studying. They watched a video, which hopefully they were interested in, scrolled through some static content, only reading what they were interested in, and then fluked their way through some knowledge checks, where a couple of new topics were thrown in from the static content. The final test is totally optional, but lots of companies will want some sort of proof that a level of competency has been reached. For someone like a sales consultant, I don't think the final test needs to be compulsory because what they get out of their training usually directly affects their income. Whatever effort they put in, they get back. For technicians though, I think a final test is necessary, if only to add a little bit of pressure at the start of the course to remind them that they need to study this. It's not optional. I think this is necessary because a lot of automotive technicians don't really like studying, are young and impatient, and are working for a wage, not a salary, so their bosses need them to learn this so they can work more efficiently. So by mixing up the way I present the content and adding a little bit of practice and interactions, I keep the students interested and also add a bit of anticipation. I've found that by using this format, the number of inquiries from students and failed courses has reduced quite a bit. If you want to hear more about anything I've talked about in this video, please leave a note in the comments. That's all for now. See you next time.